My perpetrator is my greatest teacher. He taught me to find my light. I would ask him, who taught you this? And when we start doing that, maybe we can start healing, because just locking everyone up, we can't do that. That's not it. We have to get to the root of it. Why are we behaving this way? Why are we looking for power outside of ourselves? Why are we doing that? Because if the male had the power within him, he is not going to need mine. And that's what it starts with, is finding the power in these children to say all the answers are within us. And so maybe we'll stop looking outside of ourselves.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Soul Communication. I am Diana Mara Divine, and I am an author, bestseller of a book called Mastering Quantum Creation, Awaken the Phoenix Within, Manifest Your Reality, and Reclaim Your Cosmic Power. The book is available on Amazon and other big stores, and the audiobook is coming out on 11/11, so you can also listen to it. The book covers everything about remembering who you are, how to expand your field, Kundalini activation, light language, and ultimately remember that you are master quantum creator. And today we have a topic that might be a little heavy, but I felt it's really important to address it, talking about sexual traumas, about divine feminine versus divine masculine, and the toxic energy that it been in the programming. It's time for it to be transmuted and transformed, especially as new children are coming here and we need to support them. I'm excited for this conversation to talk to Shannon Curtis. She's the founder of Angel Goddess Healing, a sanctuary dedicated to those looking for healing, transformation, and personal growth. She's guiding individuals to overcome the traumas. Also is an author of children's book, No More Monsters Under the Bed, and Shining Your Light on the Dark. I'm really looking forward to this conversation with Shannon. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very humbled to be here.
Shannon, so great to have you here. I know this conversation might be uncomfortable for some, but I think we're going to be shining a lot of really good light on it. But before we jump into that, how are you feeling today? What excites you today as you are an intuitive coach and spiritual entrepreneur?
I would say what excites me is the possibility of the limitless us humans being here and my understanding of my purpose here. And so once I get that understanding of I'm the ultimate creator, it makes that excitement of what do I want to do? And for me, the excitement is helping other people, and healing other people really continues and helps me continue my healing journey. I would say you said sometimes everyone has their aha moment. Mine led me to Mexico, and where I sat in a sacred plant medicine ibogaine. And with that, I had my great awakening, but also a remembrance. And when I was 4 years old, I do remember being taken by an older person that came to my home. I had two older sisters that were in school. My parents were at work. And so I was home with the housekeeper. And it was a family acquaintance, I would even say friend. And he stopped by to see if he could take me for the day. And so my housekeeper called. Fate have it, my mom didn't answer. And so I went with this person. And all the memories I really have was just a couple of them taking me different places. But back in the 80s, I went to McDonald's and I got a balloon. And so I remember coming home with the balloon. And when my mom got home from work, she asked me, she said, "Where did you get that?" And as soon as I told her, whole energy shifted. And so I would imagine as my little 4-year-old empathic self, I felt all of that. And I felt that fear. And so I immediately said nothing happened. And so all my life, my mom asked me in so many different ways. She would ask me laying down with the lights off, whatever it was, she just kept asking me. And the answer was always the same, nothing. And so I had a lot of things happen to me. I started my period when I was 11. By the time I was in high school, I was going to the doctor because of painful periods. I had a surgery for endometriosis when I was in high school, suffered many miscarriages later, infertility, another surgery for endometriosis, bladder disease, all these physical things that I finally was able to have my daughter. And the day I had her, I had a C-section. And so that day they prescribed me pain medicine. And that forever changed my life. And for the next 7 years of my daughter's life, I became addicted physically and mentally to pain medicine. And it was that thing of I learned instantly, it numbed my pain. And so that was this little tool friend of mine that anytime it kept me from dealing with my stuff. And so that led me down that path of addiction, but then everything came to a head like it always does. And I was just done. And so when I was offered if I wanted to get help, I said, absolutely. I was literally just waiting for someone to see me. It was like, see me, I'm over here doing all these bad things because I want to be seen. And so that led me, I said yes before the words could even come out of my mom's mouth. And so that led me to a wonderful trauma center and for 6 weeks, and I stayed there and I really focused on healing and healing my trauma. But one of the things that we talked about was trying to go to that space of that 4-year-old because I told him about it. And I remember doing some somatic work and it, no matter what, and we took it there, nothing came up, no memories. And so it was like, okay. So I went on with my life. I found about 7 years later, great in sobriety, recovery, just life is great. Turned 40. Wanted to experience something different after a 15-year marriage. It was not feeling aligned with my most authentic self. And so I had to do the hardest thing was just speak my truth. And so when I did that a few years later, it led me to meeting my partner now, who led me to the beautiful plant medicine that forever changed my life. And so he went to Mexico at a place called Ambio Life Sciences. That's this wonderful facility. And he had a beautiful experience and helped heal his TBIs, his brain injuries, suicide, depression, all that stuff. And so I was scared. And a lot of people in the plant community, they say the medicine starts talking to you. And when he went and had such amazing experience, I started feeling that pull because I was like, no, I'm good. I'm good. And there was something telling me, you need to go. And so I signed up. I said, okay, I'm going to face my fear and go. And so about 6 months later, I found myself there with 4 other beautiful women, and we were all searching for these answers of how we arrived to where we're at. And so if anyone understands it, it's not like ayahuasca. It's very much like you sleep, you're laying down all night and you put a mask on. And once you put your mask on and close your eyes, it's like a dream. That's the only way I can say is if you've ever had dreams that felt so real or you're flying or someone's chasing you and that's what it felt like to me. It was just very dreamlike, but real. And so immediately in the beginning, I felt this energy from God. And he was like, are you ready? And it was right off the bat. And I said, I'm ready. And I knew I was there. And so immediately I was looking, it was like I left my body. I wasn't there. I was looking and I was back at that 4-year-old self. And I was looking in the car and I was on the left-hand side, the little passenger side, and the male was on the right. And it showed me in a gentle way that yes, I was molested. And in that moment, I had all the feelings that you would feel, the devastation for my soul, because I wasn't attached to it. It was like I was watching it and it was like, oh my gosh. But then I had anger and you have all those feelings. But then I had relief that I was like, I always knew it made sense. Everything made sense to me. Everything that led me there, all these bad things that I did or thought I did was from that moment. And so then I look down and I have this God essence and my perpetrator's right in front of me and I'm facing him. And I look down and the only thing I can describe, it's like a ball of red yarn and it was all knotted up. And I looked down and I said, this is bad. And God's, yeah. And I knew what it was anger. And I said, I have to give it back to him. And so I immediately gave all that shame back to my perpetrator. And so I had that moment. But then there's that energy right there. And I'm staring and I'm like, oh my gosh, literally, he is the same light as me. And in that moment, I was looking at him as God sees all of us, as the creator, as we had a contract, we had a thing. And if I came here to experience forgiveness, somebody had to do something to me. That's just what it is. If we come here as humans and the human thing is to experience all the emotions, part of that is pain. And so in that moment, I knew and I forgave this person. And it was the most beautiful thing of saying, thank you. My soul wanted to experience that. Maybe my human mind didn't understand it, but I am in this higher level and my soul understood it. And so it was that moment of knowing it was not done to me. It was done for me. And so with that, the rest of my journey was the most beautiful evening of flying and angels. And God just told me I was an angel and I'm literally here to just send love and light and the message of forgiveness. Because once you have an understanding, first I had to have a knowing. And then I feel like the next level is the understanding of it. And that's where a lot of people get stuck with why bad things happen. And we get stuck in our trauma and we get stuck in our past because we want to understand it. And so that's what I came to with God, was understanding that this is that game of life. I am a spiritual, angelic being having a human experience. And so when I'm able to separate those two, I can understand and I can see all the gifts that were given to me. And so that is my purpose here, is to help spreading the message that true forgiveness is possible. But ultimately, the forgiveness was about myself. It was about saying, you're not going to make me feel bad. That was your behavior, not mine. And so I just had this ultimate release and like nirvana feeling. And I got it, meaning if people felt what I felt in that moment of true forgiveness, they would get it too. And so that really started my journey of changing my life and wanting to continue this message and write my book. And all these things and gifts that were giving to me started from the moment of when I found forgiveness from my perpetrator.
Wow, thank you for sharing that, Shannon. That was so powerful. What a story. And yes, the power of forgiveness. The forgiveness frequency is close to gratitude, and then it's close to love, right? So we bringing it back, we unify it with integrated, no matter what happened to us, right? And this victimizer energy that is so present in the collective right now. A lot of us right now looking at the shadows, looking at those experiences some of us had in childhood. Some of us possibly had in other past lives, because I'm doing a lot of quantum healing hypnosis. And sometimes these traumas are coming from other lifetimes, like being killed in the war on the battlefield, or similar type of experiences you mentioning happening, and that stays in your field. So it's so important right now to do the work to recognize it and bring it back to the frequency of love. What would you recommend someone? Where can they start if they acknowledging what you say, and how they can forgive?
I think you hit on a perfect thing of the level of gratitude. So I am a huge believer in gratitude because that's how you shift your perspective of that victim. And I feel like that being the victim gives you kind of permission to do things. It's, I deserve this. I remember in my early recovery of learning that resentment was one of the one things of leading you to relapse, because you just wait for that. You're like, I need that drink because I had a bad day, because I got broken up. So sometimes we look for those outlets. And so that's that when you shift that and you find that perspective of it doesn't matter. And I tell people with my clients, sometimes your gratitude to someone could be, thank you for showing me who I choose not to be. And so it's just that gift of sometimes of having that discernment. We have to have the light with the dark, because I tell my daughter, if we were just surrounded by the light all the time, we would have no understanding of it. And there's that understanding piece. So we bring in the dark so we have contrast. And so when people understand that, like you said, the frequency of love, or I always say love or fear, love or fear, I truly feel like those are the only two core things. And what is love? That's the ultimate. It's unconditional. It doesn't matter what you do to me. I will always bring it back to love. Now, I will have boundaries. Boundaries are different because boundaries are self-love. When I put up boundaries and say, I don't like this, doesn't feel good, this doesn't align, that's a boundary, but that's also love too. And so I think sometimes people get a little confused with the forgiveness and the love of that and the boundaries. And I always say that's very important to know that. I'm not saying your behavior's okay. I'm just saying you're not going to have power over me anymore. And so I think for someone who's wanting to start, it starts with the gratitude. What can you find in that situation? Because if you can find something to be grateful for, then you're starting to shift that perspective of fear, what was taken from you, instead of, oh, what am I supposed to learn from this? What is it teaching me? And so those are those little shifts that I think is a great place for people to start, that's maybe not so
Yeah,
overwhelming.
absolutely. In QHHC, which is the quantum healing hypnosis of Dolores Cannon, is as you look at life, you always have them reflect back and say, what was the purpose of this lifetime? What was the lesson? What did you learn from it that is relevant for you? And if we were to zoom out like that and think about every experience we have and know that this experience is just experience and source, God, spirit, however want to call it, does not judge us really. There's no such thing as judgment. It's all relevant. You're here for the experience. And as you said so powerfully about contracts, the lesson is what needs to be learned and integrated and brought into the world. So beautiful. So there are adults that experience in their childhood traumas, but also how can we teach the children? You and I talked a lot about these new children coming on earth. They've been coming here, especially since 2013, 2012. Now there's a new wave of children stepping into this reality and the next wave. And they have higher templates. More of their DNA is activated in codexes. They're much more sensitive and empathic, and they process information differently. But we need to teach them this way of being here on Earth. It's very dense. What do you think about that? Because you write in all these incredible books for children. How are you shining your light for them?
I align so much with that because that's how I was this very intuitive, sensitive person. All my life, I was told I was too sensitive. And now I've learned it's my power. That's how I'm able to, my mediumship and to feel spirit is because I'm so in tune and sensitive that I feel the little shifts. And so I've learned that's my superpower. And so I resonate with all these gifted children. And what I found is the more gifted you are and this, the more sometimes it tries to get taken from you in the beginning. And that's why I truly feel my understanding of sexual trauma is always say, who is the brightest? Who is the most innocent, brightest? Children. So who do you think is going to be drawn to that? Someone that's very much in the dark. And so that's that thing of we have to protect that light, but we can't protect them 24/7. And so sometimes we get this, we're going to protect, we're not going to, what if it's in your family? What if it's at school? What if it's a neighbor? So what we do is we empower our children. We finally start to see and hear them. And I think that's the shift because we're coming to this place on our earth. I was just saying it the other day, said we are killing our children. We're okay with them being bombed. We're okay with them being sexually traumatized. What's after that? Because there used to be this thing as kids were off limits, children and women in war. When we start doing that and we're okay with it, what's next then? Because the children are our future. So if we don't protect them and we don't help them and work through their trauma, it's not going to be good. And so I know my soul mission has been to help these children say, I see you and I see your gifts and you're here for a special reason. And there's going to be people that are going to try to take your light, but just know they can't. It's fear. And I always say fear is forgetting everything already remembered. That's what fear stands for to me, is it's just forgetting everything I've already remembered. And so if we can help those children remember and hold on to that, we're going to have a chance to make a shift. But it starts with talking about the dark. It starts with it. It starts with talking about these uncomfortable topics that we don't want to. But as a mom, I want to ask, why are we okay with our children being abused? Why are we okay? And so that's my passion is I have learned to turn my own pain. And now, unfortunately, I'm walking my 15-year-old daughter through her own sexual trauma. And it's taught me enough is enough. And that's why my book series are no more. It's no more. We have to start talking about these uncomfortable things. And so that is my gift to the world, is to help these new children coming in, is to know they have someone who sees them and their gifts are special and they don't have to be in the dark alone.
No more is a powerful statement. The place that we're arriving to, especially as divine feminine is rising, where we no longer consenting to the old paradigm way. This old paradigm has existed on earth quite a long time, and the female has been suppressed. The energy is now reclaiming itself, re-empowering itself. And we also, like you said, boundaries. We're drawing the line and we're saying, no, we're not going to be okay with this any longer. And children, unfortunately, have been victims as much of this masculine energy that also deep down is just a wounded child, the same child that has been also a trauma victims. And to regain
Yep.
their power, that's what they do, and they're dominating the others. So it's this vicious ancient cycle, and a lot of our ancestors are part of. And I think this is the time where we're breaking these contracts and we're saying, no, we're healing many generations forward. and many generations back. It's time.
Yeah, it's time. And the other thing that comes through a lot is, like you said, it's the cycles. And so whenever I have that, just like my perpetrator, if he was in front of me, what I would ask him is, who hurt you? Who taught you this behavior? Because that's what I've learned. That's what we have to start being curious. We have to stop judging. Now, I'm not saying like judging behavior, but being curious enough where you see a homeless person on the street and you drive. A lot of times we have judgment. Okay, they're an alcoholic, they're an addict, they're this, they're lazy. We judge. But what if you were curious and you walked up to that person and you were curious to know how we got to that place? Because I guarantee you there's a lot of pain and trauma with that person to get there and sleep on the ground. And so it's the same for these perpetrators. It is a learned behavior. I truly do not believe we are born with this in our hearts, because that's not who we are. We are love and light, but we have the discernment. And yes, they are our teachers. My perpetrator is my greatest teacher. And so he taught me to find my light. But that's what it is. I would ask him, who taught you this? And when we start doing that, maybe we can start healing, because just locking everyone up, we can't do that. That's not it. We have to get to the root of it. Why are we behaving this way? Why are we looking for power outside of ourselves? Why are we doing that? Because if the male had the power within him, he is not going to need mine. And that's what it starts with, is finding the power in these children to say the power, all the answers are within us. And so maybe we'll stop looking outside of ourselves.
So powerful. And also, as a mother of a boy, I think it also has to do with how we parent these children, right? The mothers that are teaching boys in a different way. Like, I embrace my kid's emotions. I want him to express his heart and feel everything. And I think, unfortunately, in the past, the boys couldn't really be connected to their emotions. Like, I come from Soviet Union, where unfortunately those emotions are very suppressed. If a boy cried, oh, you're not strong enough, or all those programs that have been put on them to disconnect from who they are. And I think in this disconnection, there is this like awkward energy. They don't really know how to be in their bodies. They don't,
It doesn't go anywhere.
it
It
goes
goes
out.
out. Like the energy has to go somewhere. And that's what I tell my next book is literally about a little boy dealing with anger and this fire. The next one's the cardinal, the root chakra, but it's all about the fire and the anger that his dad has, and he starts feeling it. But that's what I understand, is it all stems from love. And when you have nowhere to go with those tears and all of that stuff, it starts to get to anger because it has nowhere to go. And then when that anger has nowhere to go, it turns to rage. And those are those things of that control and everything. And so we bring it back from the rage to the anger. And it's okay to be angry, and then bring it back to the love and the purpose. And so it is so beautiful that you're raising a son to express his feelings. What he is literally here to do is experience. You're giving him that platform. And so if we can do that as parents, especially for the men.
I think these children, because they're so much more empathic, like, they don't even want that. In my kid's situation, I took him to kickboxing, karate type of place. When they started actually sparring, he couldn't do it. He would come out of the class crying, and he was like, "But mom, why are you making me be so violent? I don't want to be
Mm.
violent. I don't want to be kicked. I don't want to kick anyone else. I'm quitting." And he did. He quit. And honestly, I couldn't say anything because I did understand where he was coming from. A child who's coming from higher dimensionality, whether it's Pleiadian, Syrian, Andromeda, and especially these new children, they are angels. They are coming from this frequency of love. Why force them to be violent when they can be the champions of nonviolence?
Yeah, and it's gonna take them saying that, because what happens is when we listen, that's why I feel like that's how we change our children, is being seen and heard, because you heard him when he said that. That doesn't feel right. And that's what I tell people. That's how trauma, that's how things, that's that intuition we're given. When something feels yucky, it's because it does not align with our true essence. And that goes back to, we are truly just love. So anything outside of love is not gonna feel good. And that's that thing of teaching our children and honoring that he was able to identify, I did not like the way this felt because I don't like inflicting pain on someone and it doesn't feel good. And that's how I've been all my life. I'm 43 and I don't get it sometimes. I do now. So I can't even imagine a child. But I did not get why bad things happen. I did not get why people are mean to each other. I've never put my hands on someone. I can't even imagine doing that. And so those are those things of that's not my frequency. And so I was more that I did the addiction stuff. And so some of the children that are more inwardly, they're the ones we're going to have to watch out for because we almost take it, we do the suffering. And so that's what happened to me was I didn't want to cause pain to anyone else. I did it to myself. And so those are the children that we have to really watch because they're going to internalize it. And when they don't know what's going on in the confusion and the suicide and depression, it's because, like you said, Earth is very dense and it's a lower energy they're not used to. And so we have to be very kind and gentle to them because that is very much a part of being here is that high and low. But sometimes the lows are really hard for them when they don't have the safe place and the parenting to help walk them through that. And so I work with a lot of clients that have struggled with depression and suicide. And I've always told them, I think it's a beautiful sign, meaning you are ready to kill something off. You're ready to literally kill something off that's no longer serving you. So if we stop shaming it, we have the shame around suicide too, right? And so again, we're shaming all the answers. Talk to someone who is suicidal. It's because they were so desperate to feel something different. And so if we can just give them that other option and know they're worthy of love. And so the people that are depressed, I've been through all of that. It's because you don't feel worthy. And somewhere along the line, usually back to childhood, almost all of it goes back to childhood. We were told, whether told to our faces or not, a story that we weren't worthy or we weren't good. And we're disconnected from source. That's the biggest thing. We're born and we are given a name. This is who you are. Instead of saying, who would you like to be? Or this is how God is. This is how Jesus is. Why don't we say, how does God feel to you? Does God feel judgmental to you? Does he feel like he would cause pain? Does he feel like he would make children suffer? That's not how I feel. All right. And so it's those things of have to start asking these questions of not talking about things, but what do they feel like? What I always say, I don't want to read the book. I want to be the book. That's what we have to start doing is going from our head to our heart. And so for me, plant medicine really helped me because it removed the ego. It did that shadow work for me because I was able to see it has a higher perspective. And so I had no attachments to it. And so that's that other thing of we can start getting from our head to our heart and we can start detaching from the ego. It makes life a whole lot easier.
Definitely. I'm someone who went through the whole plant medicine journey for many years. I've done the whole ayahuasca route and I've been a medicine woman for a long time with mushroom medicine. So I do understand how plant medicine is a wonderful tool for embodiment. And I believe there are so many other modalities without plant medicine that I practice today. Breath work, Kundalini activation. There's so many ways to get into the body and shift from being so much in the mind and looping into the heart, into the body, and really be present here. So with these children too, I feel, and with adults, now we're in the age of AI and the age of computers and gaming. So the escapism that I see is also into that. Like I see my kid on Roblox. He can sit hours on it because his mom, I can move through the portals, jump around, and this and that. Like I so much more fun there than here. And I get that too. And so I think the other message is that we need to also develop new programs for adults and children to learn how to connect. So it's not connection through necessarily escapism in internet, but like going out in nature, really being here, grounded in this reality.
Yeah, we need to start seeing each other. That's the other thing these children are learning. I'm going to get this instant gratification. Let me see how I feel today by how many likes I got on social media. And so it's that instant thing of, oh, they're telling me how I feel. If I post a picture and I only get 5 likes versus 500, what do you think that is programming into our children? And then they're missing out on that human connection. So then we have all the bullying because it's a lot easier to say something mean to someone behind the screen versus through their face. And so it's all these things that we're starting to do. But the biggest one with children is we are feeding them and putting all these toxic things in their body and sugars and all these things. And then we're planting them in a desk for 8 hours a day. We're saying, sit still. And then guess what happens when they don't sit still? We don't say, maybe we should change the programming. We say, oh, let's give you a pill and let's label you ADD, ADHD, and we're just going to give you a pill to make you sit here. And that's that insanity that when we really stop and look at the system we created for our children, it's like they are literally set up to fail. They're set up to check out because we're making them sit there and force learning things that aren't really helping them. I didn't go to college. I tried. It was not for me. That's why I became a coach, because I didn't want to go get a degree to help people. I was like, I can help people by my story. Everything I've learned is from, yes, reading, but I lived my story. I live my story. Like you said, the plant medicine is just an aspect. I meditate, breath work, movement. All of those things are the embodiment of the mind, body, and soul. And so my hope is we can start just by looking at the system and seeing, is that really serving the purpose that it was set up for?
The system is so outdated. The Rockefeller system that is meant to create slaves out of us and entrap us into the assembly line. But we already know that these jobs are pretty much obsolete. With AI, the way things are moving so rapidly right now, talking about college, I'm having a conversation with my 12-year-old that most likely he's not going to go to college. And
I just told my daughter that too. I was like, go study, go be abroad, go travel, go live life. But it was that thing of, that's what happened to me. I went to college at 18. I didn't know who I was. And so we're asking our kids to do these hard things, but we're not preparing them for them. So it's just like school. We're setting them up for failure, that a system that is not working. It's not
yeah.
working.
And they have to find their connection and what excites them, like what really brings them joy versus the way I know my kid goes in the morning every day. It's like dreadful for him. It's like going to a prison. And that's not really, an environment we want to give them. It's a hard place. I know more and more parents now are homeschooling, and there is a talk of development of these new earth schools that I'm seeing pop in a little bit here and there, not a lot. But majority of us are still living typical suburban life. So there's only so many moms that can do that. So I think the only thing we can do in those like special moments outside of school and create those environments for them and have those conversations with them
Yeah.
constantly.
I think it's like you just said, having the conversation. That's all. Let's just look at it, because for so long, no one's wanting to look at it. So let's just start looking at, how does it set up? Are we an environment setting up creators? Because again, if we're creators of our own universe, are we making creators? Or like you said, are we making these slaves to this environment? And so my big thing, I've also worked with people, or through my thing, when you have a spiritual awakening, a spiritual remembering, that is so important. But what I have found as well is having a purpose is just as important. And so what happens is when you have this spiritual awakening, you're like, oh my gosh, I get it and all this. Then you go through this moment of, now what? What's the point? I always say it's like finding out Santa Claus is real. Okay, why is Christmas? And so that's what I had to go through, that thing. And then the point was, whatever you want to make it, whatever you want to make it. So you have to know what moves your soul. And moving my soul was helping people. And so it's that you got to have your purpose. And so again, if we can create this environment for children, like you said, if they have to be in school, but maybe outside of school, helping them tap into their special gifts, because we all have them. And imagine a society if we all used our special gifts and did that, not for the money. And so that's why I tell my daughter, don't create a life don't create it out of I have a big home, so I have to have a job. I want a car, so I have to have a job. So everything I'm doing is for that, versus first, what makes me happy, and then create a living out of it. And that's what I did after my divorce. I didn't even have a credit card in my name. And now a year and a half, couple years later, I have a home in my name. I have a business, all these things, but I started with nothing. but it was what moves my soul. And once I did that, I get to literally make a living being my most authentic self. And if that's not a gift in itself, I don't know what else is. And so that helps me every day to know I am following my true path. And that's my hope for my daughter and the children as they just follow their true path of why they're here.
Japanese tradition, they talk about soul purpose as Ikigai. And it's already proven that when you have a soul purpose, you can actually increase your longevity. So when they studied the different centenarians, those who 100 years and over in blue zones around the world, they saw that each one had a purpose, whether you somewhere in Sardinia in near Italy and you cooking dinner for your family or shepherd out in the field, or you in Japan and Okinawa and you gardening every day. When they have that purpose, it drives them forward. So I remember I had this conversation with my mom. She was taking care of my niece and my nephew, and then she was ready to retire. And I told my mom, like, you need Ikigai. So every morning when you wake up, you need to excite yourself about what you're doing. So she started painting and singing, and now she like does these incredible clay productions. She's blooming in a way that I've never seen. Whether you're a child or an elder, Ikigai is so important. Like, why are we here?
Yeah, I love that, especially after retirement, because that's what happens. A lot of people stop moving and get depressed after retirement. That's why a lot of people work forever because they're scared of the who am I? And I had that thing when I got divorced. I was like, I was just, I say just, but I was a wife and a house, and a mom, housewife. Who was I? And that was a hard place to be at, that I had nothing that was giving me that purpose. And so that's that thing of that gets you up out of bed. But after my spiritual awakening, having that when I knew my purpose, but once I had it at first, it was what's the point? And I remember that feeling of I had to really ground back in my body. And that's another huge one after awakenings and all of that. You have to ground that. You have to anchor that like heaven on earth, because I could stay up in the clouds and stay with spirit all day. That's fun. It's kind of like what your son said. That's fun. I would much rather be doing that and talking to loved ones that have passed than then sometimes working with other humans that aren't so nice. And so part of that is the grounding, but is finding that purpose of that, that it helps you. Because I remember in the beginning, I was like, oh, whatever. Now I thought about that. I had that moment of, if something happened to me, I'm okay with death, but I don't want to leave yet because I haven't finished my mission yet. And that was the shift of it, that I was like, I am supposed to be here. And I really think for people that are depression and suicide, if you had a mission and knew your purpose and how powerful you were, you'd be the same way, where you're like, nope, I'm not leaving yet. Because trust me, a long time ago, I'm like, this isn't fun, whatever. Like, this is too dense for me. It's too mean. And now I'm like, nope, this is my purpose now. And so I want to be here. And that is a big difference that shifted in my life of I have to be here versus I want to be here. And I know why I'm here.
So powerful. Making that commitment, right, to be here and serve in the highest good. We all volunteers. Those who listen to the show, they all star seeds. They resonate with this message. And I'm sure many of us had those days where we're like, oh yeah, I want to go home. What that home is. They've been on this journey for many, I call them the OGs, the reincarnated on Earth many times, all the way from time of Atlantis and Lemuria, and they've done this so many times in different densities of Earth experience. And it can get very exhausting when we trying to operate in the matrix. But remembering that there was a reason why we decided to come down for this experience, and that was for this evolution. Everything we're learning here, we also resonated to our other higher aspects. We are helping the universe, we're helping the galaxy too by learning all of this stuff here. So how could someone find you, Shannon, and find your books?
Yeah, they can go on my website. It's www.angelgoddesshealing.com. And the books is on there. They can find it on Amazon, pretty much anywhere books are sold. So yeah, they can go on there and see my services and what I offer. And then yeah, do the book and find me there and social media. I'm starting up on that, but definitely on the website it has all of my
Yeah. And
information.
you also do mediumship. You were mentioning that sometimes you interact with the other side. How's that?
Oh, yes, for sure. It happened. I've always had that in my family. My cousin, that's been her living for 20 plus years. And so I've always had that sensitivity, that gift, but I never understood it. And so after again my spiritual awakening, it was tenfold. And it was one day, it was like 10 out of a 10. But it started because I was feeling it and I had faced my fear. And I went to the gym one day and I kept feeling it all week. I was like, just go do it, just go do it, just go do it. And I walked up to the lady and I said, do you have a grandma who's passed? And she, yes. I said, and you have a daughter? Yes. And she's like, how do you know that? She's, I'm over there at my desk. And she goes, I have my grandmother's cards everywhere, all her love letters. And it was that thing. And all of a sudden, Spirit's like, you believe? I was like, did. And I just got, and it was like coming out of me and I didn't even know where. And so it was a 10 out of 10 to where wherever I went, I just couldn't turn it off. And then I learned how to turn it down. But what I love most of my stuff, I still do mediumship clients, but most of mine, I call it intuitive coaching because it's all beautiful to talk to loved ones and our spirit guides, but how do you integrate them in your life? And so what I love is the coaching part of it. So when I'm talking to you and say you're a client and you're struggling with something, I'll get a little download. Or maybe it's your past dad that maybe you had some issues with and you don't really want to talk about it. And so I'll get this little download and I'll say, tell me about this or this. And then before you know it. And so that's why I like the intuitive coaching, because if I trust this is not for me, and that's always tell people, this is not for me. I literally am good in my life. I'm doing this to help other people as well. And so it's a channel. It's not coming from my ego. I really try to do the work. That's a big other piece of, I think people in this space really need to do the shadow work, the ego work, because in order to keep it clean channel, I have to make sure my side of the street's clean. And so for me, meditating every night and my partner, and we talk about the masculine and the feminine, I have to have that balance within me. He has to have his masculine, feminine balance within him. And then we come together as two already whole people. And so that's that important stuff that every night we meditate and we end our day with that. It's like bookends. Begin with the gratitude and the end is checking in with ourselves, making sure we're good. And once I do that, I can continue and my gifts open up because I'm a channel now and it's coming through me. And so that is probably one of the best things I love about my work is getting these little downloads from spirit. And I feel like I have a little extra something because I'm getting these things that they're telling me to ultimately help the person.
I resonate a lot with all of it. I think anyone who has their channel open can do all of it, even myself included. I never thought of it myself as a medium. And I had an experience a year or so ago where I basically was contacted by spirit to heal someone else, actually, someone from 9/11. That was unexpected. But I feel anyone who's in the field and doing the work and being really connected to the source and their higher self, like everything is available for us. The veil is so thin these days, and it's just a matter of trusting your gifts. A lot of us built this negative belief, and I was one of them that, oh, like you have to be born with this. Like this is something that's only available if you're born with this, or you come from family of mediums, or no, that's not true. And you know that. It's like we all have that.
Yeah.
As long as we allow that ego to step aside a bit or do this beautiful dance with the divine will. It's not like ego is completely gone. And that's beauty of this experience. We can have the individuation and we understand it. But I love your practices too. That's such a nice way to finish the day with your partner and really bring it together and start your day with intention. And I think this is really beautiful way to be constantly connected or reminded how to stay connected. Doing that with a partner, what a inspiring thing.
I tell people too, it doesn't have to be so intimidating. So when clients come at first and they get a little bit like we're going to meditate, it's just music and we pick all different kinds. See, there's all different kinds that invoke different things. And so we just and do that and however it is. And so sometimes people think meditation is just a solemn and no thoughts. It's not that. It's not fighting the thoughts. It's just saying, I am a human, like surrendering to it. And then when you surrender to when you're sitting there, don't think that's when you're going to get all that. It's just to listen to the music. That's always try to say, become the frequency of the music. Don't hear it, feel it. And that is the difference. Our thoughts are from our brain. Our feelings are from our heart. We feel. And so meditation is supposed to be like that. Where yes, you start out that way, but it's tapping in, doing that body, that internal selfie. Where am I feeling this? And that is that mind, body, soul of tapping into that. But it's a kind way of doing it. And so it's just a beautiful gift that I never thought I'd be doing that every night. And I miss it. I'll sometimes get home at 10 o'clock at night and I'll come in my office and meditate, because if I don't, I feel it. I feel off. And so that's where all my spirit, and that's where I feel. That's where I go back home. You said that homesickness, when we're missing that longing, they're just waiting for us. They're there. They're always around us. And so it's just creating that space, that container to quiet the mind and remember. And that's what I always say every night when I meditate. That's when I remember who I am. And that's why I'm doing the work I'm doing, because every night when I sit in spirit, I remember. And there is nothing better. No one can take that away from me. And that's the power that I found, is I hold the power within me. And all I have to do is create the space to set the ego aside a little bit. I've learned that the ego used to drive my car. And now I said, no, you're in the car, but I'm just going to put you in the
I said
passenger
it
seat.
too.
You get to do all the other stuff. Yeah, you can do the radio, you can decorate it, you can pick out what car it is, what color. But guess what? My higher self, it knows best. It's going to be the driver. And so a lot of times in meditation, I will literally feel my ego come in and I just do this nope. And it's like, nope kind of thing. And my partner taught me that, where it's just slide them right out and say, I'll get to you in a second. You're important. That's the differences. You're still important, ego, but you're just not in the driver's seat. You're going to be in the passenger seat, but you're still in the vehicle of this body. And those are those little shifts that if we just start shifting those perspectives, it changes
I
everything.
love that, because that's literally what I say all the time when I teach channeling as well. And some are like conscious channelers where they completely slip out. I'm thinking like Bashar, who like completely allows, and some of us are more like present, but the ego, if you don't kick it out, it's not even fighting, because it's learning now, oh, I'm present, I'm observing, and I'm learning through this experience too.
Yeah.
And it's really such a gift to be able to be that divine instrument on earth. And I think that's what we're here to do, is to be that for ourselves, for others. And so beautifully
Yeah.
said about the empowering aspect of it, is really stepping into the power and self-love to really own it and be it, because we are that. And
We
yeah,
are.
if everyone on earth did this work and accepted the fact that they are angels and there's no fixing that's needed, then we would be in completely different reality.
Couldn't you imagine?
I
Like,
do
that I
imagine.
do
I
imagine
do
that. I
imagine.
was just about to say, that is the space I go to, and my daughter. And I remember one time that I was having this talk with my partner, because he was like, you got to teach her these things and watching out for people. And I remember like soul crying, where I was like, but I believe in this place that it can. I was like, I truly believe in every fiber of my being if you do the work. And just like you said about the intuitive stuff, we are born with it. We're all born with it. We just forget. That's all. We just forget how to tap into it. It's the trauma, and it's all ties back into the trauma. That's how we forget. And all my gifts only came online once I removed that blanket of trauma that wanted me to forget my power. And that's that divine feminine, that womb that we create life. We create life. Like literally, life cannot go on without us women. So it's like, why are we sitting back saying, these things are okay, when we ultimately have the power? But that's that shift of, we have to remember, they tricked us to think that they have the power. It's all within us. And so that's my big thing, is women, and women standing up. It's just reclaiming the power that has always been ours. It's always been ours. It's just we forgot about it and we were scared. We lived too many lifetimes. We had too many times that we were sacrificed for our gifts. And so I know my intuitive gifts, but I'm with a partner who knows it, and he appreciates it, and he cherishes it and loves it, that he knows I can tap into spirit, and it is a powerful thing. That is that sacred masculine divine, that he helped me find my masculine, because I need it. That masculine's what wrote my book. the female's what like thought about it and all that, the feminine, the masculine is the doer. I need that. I need that. But he needed the feminine. And so it's that balance of we just got to get it back to balance. And right now, to me, it feels like Mother Earth is out of balance. She's not happy. And she's saying, and that's with all these earthquakes and floods, things are happening. Those floods are her tears. It's like shifting. That is what it is. Things are changing because they are not sustainable. But that's the messages I've gotten from Mother Earth is she's not happy. And that's how I feel. And I'm going to turn my pain into purpose, but it's ready to
Yeah.
change.
It's so special to be in a relationship with a partner who speaks the same language. And I'm in that type of divine union for 10 years, and I can't even imagine otherwise because we've been empowering each other and learning through this beautiful dance of divine feminine, divine masculine. I really hold that template, and I always have since we been together, and beautiful twin flame wedding we had for other partners to come together into divine unions and really help each other to rebalance this equation that you're talking about, because that is also so much needed. These relationships that are broken and that are based not so much on this balance but the overpowerment, and this is
Mhm.
the time where that old programming or the need to suppress our power as a feminine is dark ages, the witch trials. We did that in some ways to ourselves because it was not safe times. I often also work with trauma with people, but energetic blocks, and I see them like in the field, all tied to those timelines. It's like these implants that we put for ourselves until it was the right time to unplug it. And now the power is coming in when one is accepting it. And with Mother Earth too, I feel it's like you said, it's shifting, but she's too waking up. She's too with water at
Mhm.
that age. Like I think I'm 15, and
Mhm.
she needs to release all that energy, and she's getting super activated right now with all these soul activities, comets that are happening in October, all these interstellar objects. A lot is happening. And so she's a release. She's purging.
Yes, it's purging. I always say trauma has to come up to come out. And that's what it is because when something's not sustainable, something has to give. It's just like with addiction, alcohol, suicide, whatever. We are going to reach out because it's not sustainable to live out of balance. And that's what people aren't understanding. When you live in balance, look at Mother Nature. If you take humans outside of Mother Nature, is the perfect balance. It knows when to rain, it knows the sun, the trees have all these roots. They talk. The animals are it's not cruel, but they have a killing. That like animals have an understanding of they have to eat, you have to eat. The plants, there's this beautiful thing, but they don't take it personally. You hurt my feelings. You killed my partner. Animals don't do that. They live in the present. We bring all this emotion to it. And so I've just really studied Mother Earth. And when I say studied, just watching around me, and I will sit there and just watch birds or a cat, watch it pray and all that. It's not like cruelty. It's because they pray and watch for that perfect moment, that perfect opportunity so that animal doesn't suffer. And so it's all those things that they literally give us all the answers. We have water for free. We pay for water, electricity, land, and we pay for land. And then we live on land that could grow food, and we pay for food. It's this whole thing of back to everything is able to sustain us. But we just have to stop doing this, what's mine and yours and this, and that's that we're out of balance. We're making it from the ego and the power and greed, and we put all our power in money. I truly feel like that. And I feel like money's just an exchange of energy, but we have given it so much power that everybody is motivated by more and more the bigger house, the stores, how many food, how many things. And it's like we have to
Mm,
simplify it. Life is actually so simple, and the answers are really simple. And we like to complicate it because it makes it more exciting, because then it's like suffering in this big movie and theatrical movie. And I'm like, no, I don't want to play that movie part. No, I don't want to do that. I want to just do like the love and the light. And yeah, there are some places for the boundaries and the firmness, but ultimately, we're just love. We're just
mm.
love. That's all we
So
are.
beautiful. And may that reality eventually recalibrate itself. into a higher octave. I really see that playing out for us. As long as many of us, you, myself, and everyone who's awakening is holding that reality and choosing that timeline. Like we get to choose, we get to not consent to what's not serving us, and we get to decide and choose the timeline that really is serving us. And I think we are in that moment of influx right now, the 0 point, where we do get to take that train, right? And we headed that direction. So beautiful. Thank you, Shannon, for all your beautiful wisdom and everything you do. And looking forward to your new books that are coming out. Sounds like a whole series there.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. And I always say just giving me the space to share my story, but just to be seen and heard. And I always say, like, my little 4-year-old self thanks you because my book, that's in the honor of my 4-year-old self. And so it's always such a beautiful thing to tell her your story matters, the pain that you went through. Because me, Shannon, 43-year-old, I'm good. But that 4-year-old, sometimes I have to remind her, hey, that story that you went through, guess what? I got you and it's going to give me space. So thank you for letting me
And
share
the
that.
way I usually end my workshop, my energetic workshops, I say, give a hug to your little one. So I want you, Shannon, to give a hug to your 4-year-old and tell her, I thank you, I love you. And I thank you, I love you. And anyone who's listening, give a hug to your little one, your 4-year-old, and thank them and love them for they are magnificently beautiful. And you are that too. Mm, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.